was fairly well placed to finish in the first few, but it was very, very windy. And there were 2 races on the final day. I can't see myself. Do I need to look at it?
You don't have to.
It doesn't matter.
No.
Oh, okay. 2 races on the final day. In the morning, the wind was really howling, and we went down on the shingle there because all the boats were launched down the shingle. In fact, if the wind was a reach either way, you could really put your main up and sail it down the shingle and straight in the water, because they were like roller bearings. And when you landed, you had to ram your boat up the gravel and jump out quick and wait for the next wave, and virtually haul the boat with the wave up the shingle and then race up. By that time someone else would come and you'd both give another huge great throw, because it was really quite steep, that shingle.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Till you got it, you know, up to the high water mark kind of thing. But anyway, so most of everybody down there, I think including me, we were reefing, rolling the sail up and using boom claws in those days.
Yeah.
So you had this boom claw, you don't see them these days, but it was like the cotton reels on the end of your fingernails like that, with a clasp going round the mast.
Yeah.
And then underneath was an attachment that would fit the kicking strap key. And some actually had a rod leading to the gooseneck, but what we used to do to stop the claw running forward when you tighten the kicker, we used to tie it back to the outhaul, so you went out with a reduced main. Anyway, Chris Nielsen didn't reef, and 1 or 2 of the others didn't reef. And John Chaundy didn't reef. And we went out to the start, and John Chaundy had to win it with Chris Nielsen being further back than the 4th. Otherwise Chris Nielsen would win it for the first time. But you'd never believe it, all of a sudden, just before the 10-minute gun went, we're all out there already, the wind dropped. Almost completely.
Yeah.
And of course Chris didn't come anywhere, and John skated it. So of course he won 2 years running, Wroxham and Dover. So I'll always remember that. And after that I think it was at, I've got an idea, it was at Littleton. Was it? Littleton, something. No?
No, I can't see Littleton.
Right, 65. That was the following year, 64, Stuart. What's the matter with your eyes? 64.
Oh yeah. Carry on.
Right, Graham Jones, right. What club was it? His
Aquarius.
Club. Yeah, he was at Aquarius, remember, yeah. So I always remember him racing on Aquarius, because his boat was 422, I believe, which was Jinx.
Yeah.
And what Graham used to do, he had the equivalent, I suppose we didn't bother in those days too much, but he had the equivalent of shroud levers.
Yeah.
And what he used to do, when he got to the windward mark, say if it was against the tide, he'd come back, of course, in the middle of the river to get a strong but he used to let his levers or whatever he had go, and the mast used to go forward. It used to run like a train down river.
Yeah.
But he was a pretty good helmsman, and it was quite windy at Littleton that year, and he won that year.
Yeah.
So that's what I remember about Littleton Lake. It was the first time. And what might be worth going on to record is the fact that Broxbourne have got the big lake and the little lake, which we call the box. But at Littleton they had the big lake and a little lake, and the only thing was the little lake is on the other side of the M25, the M3. So when they built the M3, right, they went right across the sailing club, so they lost their little their little lake.
Charming.
You can still see Littleton if you turn left on the M3 and head towards Twickenham. Tried to show you the other way. Anyway, what was after that? Janet won next, didn't she?
Littleton, where have we got to? Yes, Fundy.
Yeah.
65.
Yeah, and where was that?
Burnham.
Burnham. By then, I'd become Moth Secretary, and this is the first and last time that we had the championships at Burnham and Crouch. I was particularly interested to have it at Burnham and Crouch. Is it rolling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it helps if I can keep it. Reason is that when we bought the house on the river at Broxbourne, and my two boys had come up to the age where they were going into sailing, and I bought them their first ever cadet at the age one was 11 and the other one was about Geoffrey was about 19 months younger, so they were virtually 9 and 11. And the first cadet I bought was number 1600, which was called Cadeaux. C-A-D-E-A-U-X, which in French means gift.
What?
Gift.
Gift. Yeah.
Gift. And the previous owner was Jack Holt himself, who bought it for, I believe, a nephew. So we had it after him. Incidentally, another strange quirk of fate, the very first time I stepped in a sailing boat, before I even bought my Merling, is with our next door neighbour at Broxbourne, who lived on the house right on the bridge on the river there. His name was Mike McLaughlin, and he was into sailing, and he had a Firefly to begin with, and then he swapped it for a National 12 that used to belong to Jack Holt. And that boat was National 12 number 1111, and it was called Frivolous. But I would have become quite friendly with Mike, but unfortunately they had a young son about 2 years old, and one day a gypsy came in to try and sell something, and I suppose anyway, unsuccessful. They left the garden gate in, and the baby walked out over the bridge and drowned in the river. And they had the police down there, and the dogs found where the child had fallen in the river. So they moved away, you see. One very amusing thing is that the people who took their place was a chap and his wife. She was a midwife. They were in their sort of mid-late 30s, I suppose. He really was a spitting image of Rolf Harris.
Yeah.
And the house was sort of semi-detached, so we could hear part of their lounge, the way the arrangement was. And as soon as the removal van arrived, they opened the gate, started moving furniture in. And when we looked out the garden, we were astounded to see, Chalkley's name was, Brian Chalkley. The removal men and his wife are all moving in. He's got his fishing rods out the front, and he's fishing out the front in the river, leaving everyone else to move in. They were a peculiar couple. They both used to play the guitar, and they used to strum away next door.
Yeah.
And sometimes we could hear them. They used to sing this song, "Skip to Maloo My Gardening," next door. But I always remember them because a very, very funny thing happened, that he decided to put a new fence along by the river, but unfortunately not by the river, along by the road, but the road came over the bridge and round the curve in his garden. So he decided to renew this fence to drive in some stakes of angle iron with a point on them. So he came in and asked if he could borrow my sledgehammer, which I let him, and this was a Sunday lunchtime. So all of a sudden, it was about 3:30 in the afternoon, there's a tremendous bang outside, and Brian came staggering in with all his hair and eyebrows singed. He'd gone through the main electric power cable for the whole district.
Good God.
And until they repaired it, he put the lights out on Broxbourne Station for a couple of hours. And he brought my sledgehammer back, and all that was left was a little wooden stump